Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. How is everybody? How are you doing? I hope you're having some better weather than we had at the weekend. So I was just been watching the news there tonight, seeing about how fantastic the weather was everywhere. It absolutely lashed it down all weekend here. So I hope you lot had a better weekend. Let's dive into what looks to be quite a busy chat tonight, and we'll see who we've got. Peter Nicholas was in nice and early, as always, Mr. Nicholas. How are you doing? Mike Wyant was in as well, very much earlier as well, saying this will be a great discussion. Thank you very much. Peter Koeman was in early. Ravnos was in as well, saying first time checking out the live stream. Thank you very much, Ravnos. We have Tonio Forbin saying really curious to hear this one. For those that haven't seen the title tonight, it is Kill Team versus Deadzone. And I'll caveat that when we start the chat, but we've got a bit of housekeeping, a little bit of kind of a few things to do before we get onto the chat. But we'll catch up with see who we've got. We've got Luke there as well from Standard Tabletop, saying why did I think this would be on at 8 o'clock? Luke, are you in a different time zone today, mate? We've got Scott Long with in as well. He's popping in to say hi. I know you're at work tonight, Scott, so don't work too hard, mate. Steve Evans was in nice and early as well. Hello, Steve. Claudio as well, saying, should I start painting already or procrastinate for another 30 minutes? Always paint, mate. Always paint. Christopher Warden was in earlier as well. Good afternoon to you, sir. We've got Pomsy in as well. Says, I know it's not going to be a dead zone in here tonight, so let's kill it, team, and have a great stream. Proper dad jokes, mate. Scott's saying, to answer the question, hashtag dead zone for life. Dead zone is life, as they say, I suppose. Tony Howell as well, saying, good evening, my lovely BlackJackerinos. Blizzards was in as well, nice and early. Jonathan Wyborn. David Mackay is in as well. We've got Busey in as well. Different Gear TV. Hello, mate. Yoakum's in as well. James Zom. James, the stuff I've just been seeing on our Discord today, mate, in the Patreon chat, the stuff that you've been painting, I think it was AOS stuff if I remember right. Absolutely fantastic, mate. I didn't get a chance to comment on it yet. Simon Parfit says, good evening all as well. Mr. Trainer Guy, saying he's at work tonight. Thought he'd be done with the overtime, but guess not. I'll be having a good listen with no interaction or, hey, overtime means just buy more minis, mate. That's what it's for. Good evening to Christian as well, the moderator in our chat tonight. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you very much for coming in, mate, and sorting this lot out. That's what I was trying to say. Barry Kleiber saying, hey there, everyone. Beautiful day here in Chicago. Hope it is where you are too. It's brightened up now, mate, to be fair. But yeah, God, what an awful weekend it was. Fat Cat's in as well, saying good evening and good luck for the draw. Didn't get around to submitting a photo of his Forge Fathers, but they don't deserve the spotlight. Anyway, of course they deserve the spotlight, mate. If you finished the challenge, you should have got them in, mate. John Estelle says, evening all, I'm in the Dead Zone universe tonight, painting some convicts for Dreadball. Nice, man. Nice. If I can find out where that was before it scrolled off. Foible Games is in as well. Says, hey Andy, hello mate. Jacobson as well, saying, always looking forward to the Monday hang. Nice one. Animus is in as well. Stotty's Man Cave, nice to see you, mate. VJ's in, good morning, sir. Lee Reynolds is in as well. Brennick's in. Derek Hodges in, saying hello again. Jacob says it's pretty warm in St. Louis. Is it St. Louis or St. Louis? I always think it's St. Louis, isn't it? VJ saying, how's everyone's mini swap going? I haven't even started mine, mate. Bad Andy, yeah. Alan Goodenough in as well. Al Cluley saying he's very curious. If it was in stock anywhere, I'd have bought the Dead Zone starter by now. Yeah, we'll come on to that in a bit. Simon Morton's in. Josh Price is in. George Burton says, first live viewing. Looking forward to this. Great choice of topic. First of all, welcome to the live stream, sir. And yeah, I wanted to talk about Dead Zone tonight because tonight is also... If you've been following my channel or you're a member in the Facebook group, you'll know that we've been doing a slow grow painting over the last 6 weeks to get 150 points of Deadzone Strike Team completed. And if you completed it, your name goes into a list, and tonight is the live draw for that. So one lucky person tonight will win a £25 Mantic Games voucher for the web store. So we're going to do that draw after I've kind of caught up on the names and stuff. But yeah. Why the hell not? That's why we're talking about Dead Zone tonight. But I thought rather than just talk about Dead Zone, we had a chat a few weeks ago now, maybe a month or two ago, where we just chatted about getting into Dead Zone. Tonight I thought I'll kind of compare it. We talked about Kill Team last week. Seemed to be a lot of kind of interest in it. And I think whilst they're not the same games, they're both small scale sci-fi games. So they operate in the same arena. Mike G's in as well. Vincent VT says he's finishing his Deadzone teams now without any pressure. Spunky Taz says, why are you buggers? Barry Nixon as well. Gordon Fraser says, hi from Gordon and his son Jasper. Hello, Gordon, and hello, Jasper. How are you doing? Anna Robinson says, evening all, here to pad the numbers out, but I'm currently sanding the floor. Radstall is in as well. Says, pleasantly surprised by Vanguard, so I'm pretty curious about other Mantic games. Nice one, mate. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that Cyrillic stuff, but he said, Grim's here, first time. Says, good night all. Good evening, Grim. How are you doing? Lee Daubergen says, hi, mate, kill team all the way. That's because you won our kill team tournament, didn't we, at the weekender. Gordon saying, Deadzone rocks. Gary Hollandale's in. Here, you handsome devil. Oh, you sweet talker, you. Bobby Clark's in as well. Flyer Mammal, nice to see you, Ruth. I hope you're well. Joss is in as well. Says, good evening all, just finishing painting these Blood Rage Gods of Asgard expansion. Awesome. Luke says, I think really has forgotten to go for a wee beforehand. Oh, I must have missed that. I don't know what that was. Jim saying, thanks for the shout. Trying a new edition. Hype to get more of these Ultramarines painted tonight. Nice one. And he says, it's nighttime in Moscow. Well, good evening, good night. It says, don't mention the weekend. I miss you lot, says Ruth. Oh, I miss you lot too as well. So, a couple of things I wanted to talk on tonight. Obviously, we're going to do the draw. I will do that in a few seconds. I also wanted to. In my Facebook group, I don't allow people to share links to their YouTube channels, to their kind of blogs and all that kind of stuff, to anything that they're selling on Kickstarter, because in the past, I have seen many channels just become places where people come into the community, they dump a link to their video and they disappear and they don't contribute anything. And since I put the kind of the stop on that, I think the community is really flourished, and actually we see a lot of people posting their painting, we see lots of people commenting on threads, people asking questions, all that kind of stuff. However, that doesn't mean that I am not a supporter of the channels that people have really, and recently there's been quite a few people in the community who have who've started new channels. So I want to just want to give a couple of those a shout. So if I can go across to my right monitor, which is this one. So the first one is Debsworth's Hobby Studio. She's just done her first video, which is all about that base, which is how to make kind of a woodland path basin for your miniatures. Deb's a member of our Facebook community. She has been doing some really nice kind of diorama type basin work and things. I've been really impressed with it. She kind of sent me a link to our first video the other day. She was kind of really sort of excited to get it up there. And I just want to give her a bit of a shout out. Anybody that's in the chat tonight or watching this back later, please do go over and check it out. And if you like what she's doing, give her a little sub. We all started kind of at zero. We all kind of start off in the same place. And there was plenty of people gave me some help when I first started. So I think it's only fair to give Deb a shout as well. And also because I think she's doing some really good stuff. So please do go over and check out Debsworth's Hobby Studio. The next one I want to give a shout to, Luke, who's in the chat tonight. Again, another new channel. Hasn't been going very long at all, about a week now. Doing very well, up to 47 subscribers though, however. And yeah, he's doing a bit of live streaming, a bit of hobby hangout, a bit of Q&A stuff. So if you're available when he's doing any live streaming and stuff, or you just want to pop something in the background while you're doing a bit of hobby, and it's not my videos, of course, please do go and check out Standard Tabletop. Luke's a great guy, one of my Patreons, and yeah, it'll be nice to kind of share some love for him too. And the other one I want to share is a guy that Nick and I have kind of, we kind of got this kind of sort of long distance friendship thing where we've chatted for a long time in the background, kind of just by kind of Facebook Messenger. He normally used to work night shifts, and he would message me a day later and say, "Oh, I watched your live stream last night; it was really good." And he's had a channel for a little while now. Has a mix of all sorts of stuff, but he's also doing some stuff around Deadzone at the minute. So he's got a bit of a kind of I think the first one he did was basically like an unboxing, an introduction and an unboxing to Deadzone. He's also just done now, which is painting the Forge Fathers. So yeah, we've obviously got some Deadzone folks here. Please do go and check Nick out as well, Nick Tyrrell, and drop him a sub as well if you like his stuff. So yes, thank you very much Tony's saying there, Debs and Luke's both been doing some awesome stuff. They don't conflict with Andy, so do great channels. I even if they do conflict, if they do exactly the same stuff that I do, I still kind of support them as well. There's enough room in the world for multiple channels. I don't see any other channels as competition. I'm not fighting with other channels to try and steal their views, for example. I have to stand on my own 2 feet, and if my content's good enough, for example, people will choose to watch it. So I'm not blocking you from seeing other channels, if you like, as competition. And that's why I might try and do this on a maybe semi-regular basis, just rather than just because I think this helps people more. There's no point me just if you just kind of spam the Facebook group with links to videos, people scroll past them. But if I'm kind of putting it out there and saying that these are the ones that I'd like to support, then I think that's probably a better way to do it. So that was the first piece of kind of stuff that I wanted to do tonight. The second one is let's do the draw. Let's do the draw for the Deadzone Strike Team challenge. So let me go back across again. So we're going to just draw it as a random number. I've gone through, yes, I had to go through the Facebook events page and get everybody's names. So if your name is not in here, I apologise. However, you didn't share it in the event page, which is where I asked people to share it, and so I can kind of get them all together. However, even that said, even if we did miss some, we've got 66 people who painted and completely and basically completed the challenge, fully painted it. And that for me is amazing. I've run competitions in the past that don't get 66 entrants, and this is 66 strike teams that just weren't out there originally. They weren't there 6 weeks ago, so I think that's fantastic. So I want to thank everybody that entered, everybody that even started the challenge, even if you didn't complete it, just to get into the kind of the the spirit of what I was trying to do, basically. So thank you very much for that. Paul Inman, good evening, mate. He's saying, are you going to do a showcase for the Deadzone Strike teams? As you can see, mate, there are 66, there's actually 67 because mine's there as well. There are 67 strike teams that have been done, or different people, and some people have done multiple strike teams. I would spend the entire stream just flicking through pictures. What I would suggest is if you are really, really interested to see them, Ruth's asking about seeing the photos. The photos are in the event as well. So if you go to the Facebook group, you go to the Deadzone event, you will see all of these strike teams in there. I'm not kind of, it was never about sort of which ones are the best painted or anything like that. So I don't want to make anybody feel like I don't want anybody to feel like I'm kind of like showing them off if they don't want them to be showed off. I don't really want the people to criticize them, if you like. The idea was to finish the challenge. So I'm going to put into here. So what did I say? Did I say 66? If you have done multiple teams, I have only entered you once to make it fair to everybody, because the idea wasn't to get multiple entries from multiple teams. So just be glad that you now have more teams to pair. So I got from 1 to a maximum of 66. Let's roll the dice and see what we get. Number 50. So number 50 is, we'll scroll down, is Carl Newbold. So Carl Newbold, if you're watching this, please get in touch with me. Obviously, I'll have your Facebook account in the group. I'll drop you a message after this. You, sir, congratulations for completing the challenge. You, sir, are the winner of the £25 Mantic Games voucher. So, let's go back to this screen now. Right, let's have a look. Posting maybe a separate video or set up an album in the group. To be honest, mate, they're all there to go and see. The problem is it takes so much time for me to go through. I don't even think I can cut and paste them or anything like that. So, unfortunately, I haven't got the time, especially when they already exist, that you can go and look at them. So, yes, thank you, everybody, though. Much appreciated. Let's pop back to the chat a little bit and see what we got. Just Kev's in as well. Hello, mate. John Francis in as well. Malkavian's in. Mark Corley's in as well, and he's at work. He'll be nipping in and out the chat. Jack Shaggy Wargames in as well. Hello, mate. Standard Tabletop says, let's get those likes up, people. Thank you very much. Tim Kelly said, I thought Standard Tabletop was a myth. No, Standard Tabletop exists. It's Tabletop Standard, that's a myth. Peter says, I have a funny feeling I'm supposed to be somewhere right now. And here you are, mate. Noxie's in as well. He says, just lurking as I read the Zone Raiders rules. Nice. Stephen Bonner's in. Where else? Neil Anderson, good evening to you, mate. Mike G saying good luck to everybody. Daniel Engel says good afternoon and good luck all as well. Tony says you nailed it exactly how I feel and wanted to be good with you. Thank you very much, mate. That's okay. Peter Nicholas says rattle some skillies. And I think everyone's saying congratulations to Carl. Nice one, mate. We've got Dustin in as well. Made it to work and to the chat. John Hansen's in saying greetings from Denmark. Born to lose, live to win. Says hi all. Hello, mate. Odd-Sided Dice podcast. Hello, Kieran says, what about us podcast do to feel left out? First off, please do go and check out Odd-Sided Dice podcast. But yeah, what I'll do, mate, is it was something I decided to do quite late on today, was just to give a shout to a few people. I'll probably do it every live stream. I'll give it a shout to a few folks that I'm kind of listening to and that I'm watching. I was listening to your podcast the other day, mate, while I was doing a bit of painting, actually, the one that you recorded with Straw. Devin Turner's in as well. He says, I'm a little late after stumbling across Blaster Magazine Facebook live stream. I saw they were doing that, mate. Dustin's got to work with a package of 100 dropper bottles arriving. And VJ saying he's in the middle morning routine, so we'll be dropping in and out. Right. So let me get those out of the way, and then I can get my other screen ready for the other stuff that I want to talk about. Have I closed down the right one? That's the one I wanted. Right. So, Deadzone versus Kill Team. I've wrote a few notes down. So what I wanted to say, what I said was basically I wanted to give some kind of caveat at the start. I'm not suggesting that one game is better than the other, because it's all different, or based upon your likes and your dislikes. So I'll give you my ideas, I'll give you my impressions and my opinion, but please weigh them up for yourself. Don't kind of take it as Andy said this, therefore XYZ. Please weigh them up for yourself. I'll give you the kind of the pros and cons, I think, of the two games as we go through it. However, what I would say is they're both good games in their own right. I think they scratch different itches, and I think they appeal to different kinds of players, and I'll explain that as we go. Clover's Game Terrain, good evening to you. Roxanne, good evening to you as well. Mark says I couldn't win a one-ticket raffle. Yes, so I'll start off. Deadzone is set in, by Mantic Games, is set in Mantic's Warpath universe, which is kind of, it's less grimdark, I would suggest, than 40k. It's much more of a kind of a relatively clean sci-fi feel to it, whereas it's set basically with a big corporation that is basically trying to kind of take over the galaxy, really. And what they do is when they find areas that they can't control, or they feel like it's basically they can't do anything with it, they basically lock off that planet and they call it a dead zone, and then basically nothing sets foot there ever again. I've just noticed my super chat is completely missing there. Why is that gone? Because I've just noticed that Arnold's just made a donation there. Thank you very much, Arnold. Why is that? There it is. I don't know why there's no recent super chat thing there. Weird indeed. Anyway, let's not get off track. So, Kill Team, obviously set in Games Workshop's Warhammer 40k universe, and is basically set around small kind of covert strike teams or kill teams going out to accomplish missions. Is basically the way it's kind of meant to be. Now, I'll kind of go through some bits and pieces. Deadzone has something which is called command dice, and command dice are a little bit, if you're familiar with Warcry, they're basically dice that you roll at the start of your turn that allow you to do different things or boosted things during your turn. This means because you're rolling command dice, there's 6 different things you can do. So this keeps it relatively straightforward. There are things like you can have an extra move action, an extra shoot action, an extra fight action. You can add an extra dice to your roll. You can activate another model, and then there's the Mantic Splat, which basically each sort of strike team, has its own special ability which allows you to do that. In Kill Team, we have command points, and command points are something which you regenerate each turn, and they allow you to basically spend them to do different things. So far sounds quite similar. The difference is in Kill Team, there are a lot of things that you can do with your command points. You can just kind of use them to re-roll a dice or something quite simply, but there's a lot of different things you can do. And if you get the core set, there's a hell of a lot of stuff that tells you in the core set that you can do. If you buy any of the specific sort of faction packs that we'll come on to in a bit, but there are some specific things you can do then. If you bought any of the kill zones, there's some specific sort of stratagems that you can, I think they call stratagems, specific things you can do there as well. So whilst from a very thematic point of view, the two games might sound quite similar, Kill Team has a lot more options, and this is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because you can really kind of tailor it a little bit. It can be quite thematic. It's a bit of a curse because it just makes the game that little bit more complicated. Where in Deadzone, it's you've got those dice. You basically roll them. There's 1 of 6 options on each dice. It keeps it quite straightforward and quite streamlined. And you can also see very easily what options your opponent has because you see the dice that they roll too. So that's kind of like one similarity in the game. Now I want to talk about the entry points to the two games. So let me start with this one. So Deadzone. Let me zoom in a little bit on this one because it's a bit small on the screen. Deadzone by Mantic Games has a 2-player starter set, and in this set you get the Enforcers and you also get the Forge Fathers, which are basically squats for those that are a GW familiar. And Enforcers are kind of Space Marine, I suppose. A mix of Space Marine and Guard, I guess. You get the command dice that I've been talking about in there as well. You get a paper playmat. You get some terrain in there as well. You get some scatter terrain. You get tokens. You get the rule book. Let's just scroll across a bit more. Is that everything? Oh, actually, I think if you scroll here, this is the one you can see a little bit better. Rule book, which is a hardback rule book. Command dice. There's some instructions for building the models, which we'll also come on to. And that is priced at $49.99. However, as you can see, it is currently out of stock. Out of stock is a problem at the minute because obviously with a lot of Kill Team, a lot of Mantic Game stuff is it's not produced, especially the plastics are not produced here in the UK. So with the current pandemic and everything else, supplies are getting restocked is quite timely at the minute. However, one of the reasons that they kind of sold out was because when we talked about it last time and we talked about doing these things, this Strike Team challenge, loads of people went out and bought it and basically stripped Mantic of their supply. So I'm kind of partly to blame on this. I apologise, but a lot of you, as you can see, 60 odd people decided to take part, and a lot of those people went out and bought starter sets. So yes, so this is a bit of a problem. However, this is assuming in stock. This is the entry point into this. Starkey's Man Cave saying it's your fault it's out of stock. And Paul Hinman saying after the Deadzone challenge, quite a lot of Deadzone stuff is out of stock. Apologise, folks. I apologise. Kill Team has a starter set as well. And now this is the second version of the Kill Team starter set. The one I've got was the original one. It sold out. They never reprinted it. Later on down the line, they basically released this second version. And this is currently in stock, as it says here, certainly in the UK anyway. Included in this, we can see there are some Tau. And we also have some, I say Space Wolves. They're basically... they're Reavers. You could paint them as any chapter you wanted to, but I think it comes with these kind of booklets, which are the Fangs of Ulfric, and I have no idea what the Tau one says. Can I see it on any of these? No, I can't. So now the good thing with Kill Team, it is more expensive at £95 in the UK versus £50 in the UK for Mantic. However, it comes with this this board, which is like not a paper mat, it's more of a card. It's quite hard wearing, of good quality, and it also comes with a terrain that you can see here on the board. So you are getting quite a lot for your money. I think it is pretty good value. Even if you're thinking of dipping your toe into the new 40k, you can do a lot worse than pick something like this up as a starting point. Again, models, typical GW models, exactly what you'd expect to see from a quality-wise point of view from them. The Reavers, very nice as well. You also get all the tokens that you need as well. These are just punch-out card tokens. You get the dice that you need. There's basically these 2 books for the 2 different factions. Give you different stratagems and bits and pieces as well. You get the cards. The cards are essentially, there's some stratagem things in there. They are also basically for writing out your the stats for your particular models. So as you build up your kill team, you can write out the stats onto these cards. So from an entry point of view, kill team is definitely the more expensive to get dug into. Oh, hang on, I forgot to mention as well. You do get the core rule book as well. And I'll come on to rule books in a second. But yeah, so from an entry point of view, kill team is the more expensive of the 2, almost twice the price. However, for the things you get inside, I still don't think it's bad quality. The problem being at the minute, Mantic is out of stock. Kill team is currently in stock. So that's the entry point. Talking about if you don't want to buy the kind of the starter boxes, you can just buy a book for each of the games. I think off the top of my head, they're both £25, both books. Those books also have, I'll say 90% of all of the stats that you'll need for your factions. I say 90% because in Mantic's case, there is an escalation. There is a let me just make sure I get the name right for you, so I don't tell you the wrong thing. Books. Yeah, escalation. I thought it was. So there is a book called Escalation Protocols, and this basically is an updated book which has renewed points values in. So updated points values for all of the models. So technically, you kind of need the second one as well if you're going to play it. However, the digital rule book is free for Deadzone. The hardback rule book is £30. And the Command Escalation Protocols book is $14.99 for the hardback or $12.49 for the digital version. So digital wise, it would cost you $12.49. If you want to buy the hardback books, it's going to cost you £45. Now, if I go across to, let's go back. Whoops, wrong one. Let's go back to Kill Team, and I will. I'll bring this up. So we'll go to Box Games. We'll go to Kill Team. We'll go to Rules. The core manual for Kill Team is £25. Now this has in everything you need. The only thing I would say is that sometimes they've produced certain rules in White Dwarf for certain factions, and up until the end of last year, I think it was, anything that had been in White Dwarf then came out in this Kill Team annual. However, if you're just starting, £25 buys you the core book. There's been no update on the points, so the points that are in that core book are still the same points. Now there are a few expansions. Don't worry about them at the moment. We'll come on to them later. But if you just want to get into the game, the core book is what you need. So that's entry points. Both games sell like factions that you can pick up. So Mantic basically for £25 you can get like a starter faction which have enough points in it to get you going. Kill Team, you basically buy the boxes of normal 40k models. Now there are some restrictions. Not every model in 40k is in Kill Team, so you do need to check those things out before you go and purchase any. And if you buy a box of say 10 Marines, that might be enough for a Kill Team, but if you went and bought a box of 10 Imperial Guard or 20 Imperial Guard, that might not be enough for a Kill Team, for example. So you do have to do some kind of sort of points calculations before you dive in. But from a Mantic point of view, generally when you buy those starter factions, you get what you need. Now the actual game itself, movement is very different between the two games, and it's one of the kind of the big differences between the two games. Deadzone works on, you'll have seen it before. If I go back and just basically get a picture of the board and stuff, just so I can reference it. So Deadzone works on this 8x8 mat. It's 2 foot square, so it's 3 inch squares or 3 inch cubes, and essentially your model will tell you how far it moves for a short action. It tends to be like 1 or 2 squares or 1 or 2 cubes. So basically there is no rulers. You don't measure anything with any kind of measuring devices. You move between the cubes. Kill Team, on the other hand, moves very much like you would expect it to, using a tape measure with normal movement distances. Now this makes it this really is what kind of separates the games quite a lot, because Deadzone uses terrain a lot like this one, which basically is, these are in 3-inch cubes. So basically if you're kind of down here, if you like, you can use 1 movement to move up to this cube. You can use 2 to move to the top kind of thing. So it's a very 3-dimensional game. Line of sight is important, and where you place yourself inside that cube, inside that square, if you like, is important. You can be tucked away behind terrain, or you can be out in the open. So positioning is important, but movement is basically just very simplistic, if you like. Kill Team, on the other hand, uses all the different kinds of terrain. Any terrain you can buy from anywhere. It basically is played on a 30-inch by 22-inch board, so you can pretty much use whatever you've got. So what I would say is, whilst it's a really simplified way to get into Deadzone, and the movement is really simple, it works best with the Deadzone terrain, because the Deadzone terrain from Mantic, or the terrain terrain from Mantic for Deadzone, is built out of 3x3 cubes. Now the plus point for this is it makes the game really easy to play. The downside of it is that you're kind of fixed with using kind of Mantic terrain. Now I know that you can use whatever you want. You could use any terrain from any manufacturer, but it does make positioning in cubes a little bit more difficult, shall we say. If you're an experienced player, I'm sure you'll not really have any problems with it. But you're essentially better off using the Mantic terrain for this. Now, what this tends to do is it makes a lot of games look very similar when it comes to Deadzone, because everybody is kind of using all of the same terrain. So it's essentially kind of it's like a prefab block city. If you're not into that kind of cube block terrain, that might be one of the reasons you get turned off by it. For example, GW terrain really is excellent. You know what I mean? We can't say anything about it really. It's good stuff. Somebody's just saying, I'll just read somewhere. I saw something out the corner of my eye. Gem Wind said the problem with the Deadzone starter is the terrain. There's just not enough in the box. Yeah, I'd agree with that. There just isn't enough in the box. Now, I was surprised with what people were getting when they bought the starter box. I thought you got more in it, but it was a long time since I bought the 2nd edition starter set. I thought I got more terrain in mine, but I'm going back quite some time and I might be remembering wrong. Gordon's saying building your own 3x3 terrain is pretty easy. It is, mate, but you're essentially still just buying cubes, really, aren't you? You're still just building cubes. So it's not really a negative, it's just something to kind of watch out for, really. So that's squares versus normal general movement, if you like. Both games use like kind of height, and you can climb up and down terrain and things. Kill Team is just a little bit more fiddly, I would say, with kind of line of sight and kind of cover and things like that. Deadzone is a bit more simple. When it comes to the turn structure of the game, Deadzone is very much a I go, you go. So I move one of my models and kind of do the actions. You basically get 2 short actions or 1 long action, and that depends on what you do. So you can move and shoot, or you can like sort of move and attack, that kind of stuff. You can move and move, which is like a run action. But it's basically I activate one of my models, you activate one of your models. That's why the command dice can really kind of become quite tactical and allow you to activate a second model, for example, so you can kind of sort of alpha strike. Kill Team's a bit more interesting, and it's interesting and more difficult, shall we say. So the way a Kill Team works is whoever goes first basically moves all of their models, or chooses which models they want to move. Your opponent then moves all of their models. However, the next turn then goes in an I go, you go formation. So the first people to, say, shoot in the shooting phase now are any models that didn't move in the movement phase. So if I've gone first, I get to activate one of my models that didn't move. I get to shoot with them. And then it goes to my opponent and they get to shoot with one of their models that didn't move. And it goes backwards and forwards until you have shot with all of the models that you want to that didn't move. You then go and shoot with any models that did move. So the shooting phase is almost in kind of two sections. It then goes into the close combat phase. So if you've charged, for example, you get to hit in close combat first. And then basically after that, anybody that was already in close combat. So there's this there's basically I move everything, you move everything, and then there's back and forth. Now it's a really interesting mechanic and it works really well, but it does slow the game down. It means you have to put a lot of tokens down so you remember who did what, and then you're going, right, have you got any models left to shoot? No, right, okay, well it's my turn now. I'm going to go first for the combat. So there's a lot of that. But what I would say is it really creates quite a tactical, almost like a bit of a game of chess really, because if I move all of my models, then you get to know which ones I've left in reserve that are potentially going to shoot first. So you can tell which models are going to shoot first. So you can then move your models into cover or whatever. Or you can say, well, he's moved all of his models, or I've moved all of my models, for example. So therefore, I'm not going to move any of mine, which means all of mine get to shoot before my opponent does anything. So there's this really kind of interesting kind of I go, you go, but I've got some knowledge about what you're going to do, and it's a really interesting thing. It just slows the game down a little bit, especially when you're first starting to play. So I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. It's actually really, really interesting. It's just very different, and it's very different to most games, to be fair. So what I would say is basically, Deadzone is the much more simple, straightforward, easy to get your head around rule set. Kill Team is a bit more deep. I wouldn't necessarily say more tactical, because Deadzone games can be very tactical as well, but they're more complex. If you're into a bit more granular stuff, Kill Team might be what scratches your itch, because you might find Deadzone a little bit simple, or a little bit straightforward. But as we know through things like Warcry, simple and straightforward doesn't make a bad game. I was going to skip on to some other things, but whilst we're on the kind of the rules and stuff at the minute, I want to talk about dice rolls and kind of how to hit and how to wound and stuff. In Deadzone, you have 8-sided dice. In Kill Team, you have 6-sided dice. So in Deadzone, you always start with 3 dice, and any buffs or debuffs that you get either add or take dice away from your dice pool. So your stats are always constant. Because you've got a D8 as well, there's a bit more stretch in the stat levels. And if you roll an 8, it's an exploding 8, you get to roll another dice. And if you roll an 8 with that, you get to roll another dice. And they keep going. So it brings in a little bit of kind of unpredictability in some quite fun kind of mechanics. If I'm rolling on a 5+, for example, so I'm hitting on 5, 6, 7, and 8, it's 50-50 chance. Every hit I get, you then roll that many dice against your save stat. And that's basically how it's a kind of an opposed dice roll. Kill Team is a bit different. So Kill Team is like 40k, as in you roll a wound, or you roll a hit, and certain weapons or cover will basically add to that sort of 3+, 4+, or take away to that kind of 5+ down to 4+. So there's a lot of kind of checking stats and checking line of sight and that kind of thing, checking for cover and things. And obviously it's on a D6. So you will roll a number of dice depending upon the type of weapon, and then the stat number will be different depending upon the situation. If you hit, you then roll to see if you wound. If you wound, your opponent then rolls to see if they save that roll. Then if your opponent is Death Guard, they get to roll a disgustingly resilient save, which is another save on top of that. And then if you take your model down to 0 wounds, if through all of that, if you do manage to do some damage and you take a model down to 0 wounds, they then get to roll an injury dice to see if that basically leaves them unconscious or takes them out of the game completely. Now, this is quite long-winded, and again, it slows the game down a little bit. And I was working it out today, basically. If you take out the Death Guard stuff, you're essentially rolling 4 times to basically to do anything. Now, if you're rolling on a 4+, which is essentially a 50-50 roll, and let's just, for argument's sake, because I think on a 4, 5, or 6 on your injury roll, it basically takes you out. So let's assume everybody else's stats are 4+. You're basically flipping a coin 4 times in a row and wanting 4 heads in a row to do anything. Now, as you can imagine, that's not as easy as it sounds. So what ends up happening is there are lots of times where you roll lots of dice and nothing happens. Now, of course, the stats will change depending upon the situation, and the amount of dice that you are rolling will change depending upon the models or depending upon the weapons. However, there are a lot of times you roll dice and nothing really happens, and that can be quite frustrating. I think Warcry absolutely nailed the way skirmish games are kind of at small scales do this. You basically taking away the save roll, if you like. You just roll to hit, and if you hit, you do the damage, but you boost up the stat line with lots of wounds available to kind of to take them. So your tanky models don't have a better save, for example. They just have a lot more wounds that you need to get rid of, and I think that really speeds the game up, and it feels so much more cinematic and thematic to come running over and wail on the opponent and getting as much damage as you can, as opposed to kind of doing this sneaky maneuver, getting this sniper shot off, and then rolling 4 times till eventually you go, nah, I missed. That was it. Nothing happened. So it's a bit kind of frustrating, I would say. For me, the dice rolling is the one thing that really lets Kill Team down. If it wasn't for the dice rolling, I think I would play a lot more Kill Team. It's my honest opinion. There are plenty of parts of the game that I can streamline back. Like when I was talking about stratagems before with a command point, you can choose not to kind of use lots of those stratagems and just pick 3 or 4 that you like the sound of, and you just kind of make them a lot more simple. So there are some things you can kind of cut back on. However, you can't cut back on these dice rolls. They're an intrinsic part of the game. Unfortunately, if you just get unlucky, it's going to be a long, drawn-out game of miss after miss after miss. The next one is model quality. Now, we've spoke before about Deadzone, so if you haven't seen my Deadzone video I did a few weeks ago, please go back and watch that and check it out. But Deadzone, basically, some of the models are hit and miss, I would say. I've just been painting up the Vermin, which is basically like space rats, like space skaven, and I was really impressed with the quality. They were hard plastic, really nice sculpts, nice and clean, went together no problem at all, and I was quite impressed with them. However, in the past, I've built like some of the enforcers, and I know from people buying this kind of stuff, from in our group as well, there was a lot of complaints about, I can't find any instructions to put these things together. There's just loads of stuff, and I don't know what the weapons are. I don't know how they go together. There's no instructions, that kind of stuff. So model quality from Mantic is kind of hit and miss. There's a mixture of resin stuff. There's a mixture of hard plastic stuff. There's a mixture of the I forget what it's called now. The other kind of PVC plastic. You need to kind of look into it first before you dive in. But the newest stuff, I would say, there's even some single piece stuff, which is from the Star Saga range, single piece plastics. There's a bit of a mix in there, but in general, really good value. Majority of them are good enough, I would say. Mantic make better minis now. They haven't sculpted any new stuff for Deadzone in quite some time. Kill Team, on the other hand, uses all of the GW 40k models. Not all of them, sorry. All of the models for Kill Team are from the 40k universe, so you know what you're getting if you're buying into them. There's very little left in the way of kind of resin minis in that range now, and I think for Kill Team, then I think essentially they're all plastics now. I was just reading a comment there as well. Paul M is saying, hello Paul, by the way, says, totally agree on Kill Team having too much dice rolling. It's what kills the game for me and why I don't play it anymore. Too much rolling with nout happening at the end of it. It's my biggest criticism by far. And Brennick saying, problem with Kill Team is it persists in using the core 40k rules, which are 30 odd years old. Rick Priestley's on record saying he used the 3 rules to replicate the curve of the D20 combat system. Yeah, I think I'd rather they replaced them with a D20 and just had one rule, and do it that way, to be fair. So yeah, model quality, unfortunately, I think GW knocked it out the park for me. I can't really comment. I can't really say anything bad about the model quality for GW. Rules we've talked about, and then I've talked about the dice rules as well. So those are the main differences, really. So to kind of summarize that conversation, if you want a really kind of easy access, straightforward rule set that is really easy to pick up, really easy to learn, is still very tactical. There's a lot of tactics in the game. I think Deadzone is probably the better of the two games. If you are a big fan of the 40k universe, if you're a big fan of the 40k models, if you like something with a little bit more crunch, a bit more kind of, I wouldn't even say the list build, because the list building in Deadzone is pretty good as well. If you want it to be a little, you can equip some of your kill team with what they call specialisms, which give them extra rules for certain models who are maybe like a recon specialist, or they may be like an explosive specialist, or that kind of stuff. If you like to kind of dig into it a little bit more, if the dice rolling mechanic doesn't put you off, if you're interested in this kind of unusual I go you go system, Kill Team is probably the game for you. What I would say is, I think if you watched last week's video, is it the death of Kill Team? Of course, it's not a death of Kill Team, but I think with the new 40k coming out, I think we might see a bit more crossover between small points games of 40k and Kill Team, more so than we have done in the past. I would say Kill Team is definitely worth giving a go. But my personal choice, I'm kind of torn on this. I really like Deadzone. I think Deadzone does what it says on the tin. It's a really straightforward game, really easy to pick up rules, not complicated at all. And I love the dice pool mechanic of adding dice or taking away dice, rather than having to keep kind of doing mental arithmetic of, well, it's -1 for this, but it's +1 for that, and then I lose this, and then this specialism gives me +1 for this, but then he's got this thing which makes me kind of -2. Instead of all that kind of stuff, I like the dice pool mechanic in Deadzone. So I start with my 3 dice. I get an extra dice because I'm at a level higher and I'm looking down on you. You're out in the open, I get an extra 2 dice. I'm going to spend a command dice and I'm going to add a dice to it, that kind of stuff. I really like that. I like the quality of GW's terrain. I think it makes for some really thematic boards and can really kind of change the feel of a game by using different terrain. I mentioned before about the Deadzone terrain. I'm in the middle of building up my board for Deadzone at the moment, so this is kind of like a test piece that I've been doing from a colour scheme. I try to do something really, really simple. This is nice. Don't get me wrong. I like this terrain. It goes together really well. I know a few people have kind of got a few questions about it because it's a little bit different. It looks like it kind of clips together like Lego, but I would suggest still gluing it into kind of subsections. It can be used in any game you want, so there's nothing stopping you using this in games of 40k, games of Kill Team, games of Star Breach, any other kind of sci-fi gaming. It wouldn't look out of place in something like kind of Walking Dead. It's some kind of container, kind of like old, like burnt out shipping container type stuff. Mark was saying there, what about long-term life of the game? Deadzone might not be developed any further, whilst Kill Team might be soon revamped or updated. I'll come on to that in a second, mate, because it's a good question, actually. So I like Kill Team, I think, because of that. However, I love the 40k models. I can't get away from that kind of side of things. And if it didn't have that constant dice rolling mechanic with very little on the end of it, I think I'd still be playing Kill Team now, to be fair. So I think it depends upon what you're looking for as a gamer. Now, what Morgan was saying there, basically, what about the long-term life of the game? Deadzone might not be developed any further, whilst Kill Team might soon be revamped. First of all, we haven't heard any news about Kill Team being revamped, being updated, or anything like that. It might well be. However, then I guess it becomes a new version, and we almost start this conversation again, because all of the advice and kind of stuff I've given you might not be relevant. Deadzone is quite a honed rule set now. I think the escalation update really did kind of tidy up some of the little bits of imbalance and stuff. And I think you're saying it might not be developed any further. You might not need it to be developed any further. Do you know what I mean? If you're enjoying playing the rules you're playing, you don't necessarily need the rules to be developed any further. What you're looking for is maybe more narrative stuff. You may be looking for kind of mission packs, that type of stuff. You may be looking for new factions coming out. I mean, Mantic are adding some stuff to the game later on this year, so it's not like it's a dead game or anything like that. Mantic just obviously don't develop stuff as fast as GW do. However, from a GW point of view, they've not really developed anything for Kill Team in quite some time. So it's kind of hard to say, really. I think, unfortunately, it boils down to the thing that it always boils down to in these kind of like versus type conversations. Which one are you going to be able to get to the table more often? If you're somebody that just plays at home with a mate, or you play down a local club with just maybe one or two people, if you're all interested in playing Kill Team, you'll find a really, really good game in that. However, if you're the kind of person that just nips down to your local club and kind of gets a pickup game, you're probably unlikely to be able to kind of pick up games of Deadzone unless your club is a Mantic type, quite Mantic playing club, if you like. So Kill Team might be something you might get more games of. You might be able to go to a local GW shop and get a game of Kill Team, for example. So unfortunately, it's a bit of an imbalance in that respect. But kind of side by side, the two games, they've both got their pros, they've both got their cons. I think if the model quality for Deadzone was a little bit better, and if Kill Team didn't, if the model quality for Deadzone was a little bit better, I think that would knock it out of the park for me. I know you can use models from other ranges, but I guess that's the same for any game. And if the Kill Team dice rolling mechanic didn't slow the game down further, on top of the fact that that weird I go you go slows it down a little bit as well, I think Kill Team would kind of knock it out of the park. So they've both got their pros, they've both got their cons. I'll kind of leave it to you to decide really for yourself. Me personally, I'd pick Deadzone over the two. I think for me, just the easier rule set is much easier for me to kind of remember in my head. I think I've just seen something somebody said about basically being able to hold it in the head or something like that. I'm not sure who that was there. I think it was... Was it Paul? Yeah, Paul was saying Deadzone for me fits the board game space in my head. Gameplay is good enough to make the aesthetics less of an issue. Yeah, and I wouldn't disagree with that one. Paul saying Deadzone does what it says on the tin. Well, on the box we bought, it simply says Deadzone, and we're currently all in lockdown, so I can vouch for that. VJ says, in the words of the Taco Girl, why don't we have both? These things are always about you could have both, but unfortunately, and it's a bit of a cop-out, it always boils down to what you're going to get to the table. You can have the best rule set in the world. You can have the best minis in the world. But if nobody plays that game locally, it's kind of irrelevant, isn't it? Unless you can convince people, unless you're the person in your group that introduces new people to the tabletop games, then that's kind of the case. But for me, I'm quite fortunate, actually, that in my local area, I've got a local gaming club that's quite GW heavy. I've now got a sort of a gaming club locally as well that's becoming quite Mantic heavy. So I know to be fair, I'd probably easier get a game of Deadzone than I would do Kill Team locally, funnily enough. Because Warcry's kind of picked up, I think, the skirmish game from the GW guys. And I think 9th edition will be the big thing when it comes to 40k locally. Kill Team's kind of died off in my area, but the Mantic guys that are kind of John Estel and some of the guys that are in the chat, I think, people like Paul, who's local to me as well, I think there's a bit of a Deadzone playing community like in the northeast where I am. So for me, it's not quite as clear cut as what games can I pick up, or maybe it is. I probably won't be able to get any games of Kill Team, but yeah, like I said, for me personally, I think I think for me, Deadzone wins out over the two. In the balance of everything I've talked about, Deadzone wins out of the two for me personally. However, I don't regret buying Kill Team. I don't regret playing any of the games I played. I still had fun playing them games. I'm not going to go back and try and catch up with some of the chat. I'll very quickly flick back and see if anybody had highlighted anything for me. No, they hadn't specifically. Let's, how are we doing for time and stuff? Oh, we're flying along. I'll just dive in at some point here. Is it Jern or Germ? I can't see that. I think it's Jern. Jern wins. I thought Warcry was too simplistic. Deadzone gets it right in complexity terms. I think that Deadzone does get it right, but I personally don't think Warcry is too simplistic. I quite like the speed of that. Scott Webster says the exploding 8s means there's no point at which you think I can't beat that enemy. Yeah, and that's quite important because there are some times where in kind of Kill Team where it is a case of like, well, I just can't hit you. That's impossible kind of thing. The fact that if you've got one dice, you can always keep rolling 8s. There's always that chance. Tony Booth Leiden says, I hate the 4 different rules in GW games. Just makes the games stutter along all the time, especially in 40k. Turns can take forever. Kill Team is better with the alternative actions, but not perfect. I wouldn't disagree with that, mate. I think on a bigger scale game, I'm not as against it because I know I'm in for a bigger game, if you like. And there's potentially less units, if you like. For all I've got a big army, you're rolling dice in blocks of units, if you like. I think on a skirmish game, I want it to be fast. I don't want it to be slow, if you like. I don't want the vast majority of the game to be taken up by dice rolls as opposed to kind of tactical movement and the story in my head, if you like. VG saying, I've not seen the Deadzone terrain in person, but it doesn't look like much more than your average MDF, although I'm assuming it's plastic. It is plastic, mate. Yeah, they basically, there's a lot more. Let me just, I don't know if that'll zoom out that. There's a lot more detail to it than you would get on kind of MDF. It's a lot more detailed than that, and there's some really nice pieces. I mean, I've got piles of it down there, but and stuff. But like I say, this is my test piece for the video that I'm busy doing. You'll see the whole video probably in a couple of weeks about a kind of building the whole Deadzone board, but it's way more robust than the MDF stuff, mate. I'd pick that over MDF any day of the week. Kelly saying this is the big difference in Warcry. You hit, you damage. Honestly, I'm really surprised I haven't seen that in more games. Devon Turner says Star Breach is a great option if you want a sci-fi skirmish game with more streamlined rules. Rules are free online. Bolt action activation system works great. I agree, mate, but it's another game in that kind of sci-fi skirmish game. And to be fair, I've not played it yet, so I can't really kind of compare where I have played both of these games. John West says Warcry could have used the save roll, so you wouldn't need all of those markers. You'd still need the markers. They're still wounds, if you like. Like, so if, for example, if you've only got 3 wounds instead of 20 wounds, like you hit in Warcry, you still have to have markers to say when you've lost wounds. I don't put them on the board. I put the wound markers on the cards. So I would still play the same way, to be fair. VGC, I assume that it's super flat and dull like MDF. It's not all super flat, to be fair, mate. It's like some of it has got like bits that basically bolt to it and stuff. Like, have I got any? Unfortunately, the ones that I wanted to talk about are in the. They're in the. I've got this bit. The ones I was wanting to explain are actually in my garage, being primed at the minute. But you can see, I mean, there's these kind of, how can I best show this? You'll be able to see, if I put it in front of my face, you can see the panels on the side are not super flat kind of thing. They have got some shape to them. Like, they've got some nice kind of grating on these things. There's these bits here that basically clip on as well as basically brackets. I have to cover my eyes on this because my camera focuses on my eyes. So they're not all super flat. However, the game works on 3-inch cubes. So as soon as you kind of put a curve or something in something, it gets away from that delineation of being in cubes. So there's a reason for it. However, it looks very kind of utilitarian. Like, if you're basically just putting kind of quick build buildings onto a planet somewhere, I don't think architecture is kind of like your first point of call, if you like. Peter Nicholas says, I don't mind the dice rolling kill team. It keeps my force alive for a few minutes at least. Paul says, totally agree on kill team having too much dice rolling. It's what killed the game. Vijay said, I actually just got the Metamorph Kickstarter, which is thick card and clips, so I'll probably get a mat and use that. I've not heard of that, mate. Mark Bericlosson as well. Nice to see you, mate. And Kelly's saying, yeah, it's a valid concern. It can get pretty same looking. I think that's my criticism, really, of the fact that because it's 3-inch cubes, even if you build it yourself, you end up building 3-inch cube squares. So everybody's table looks quite similar, where with Kill Team, you get a lot of really nice looking tables. John Estel says, new Matt Sedan and Asterian Big Mech for Deadzone coming soon. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, mate, when there's new stuff coming. Animus says, the only way Kill Team is fun and playable game is the house rule. It's taking out the useless flesh wound mechanics. Yeah, and as soon as you start house ruling stuff, you might as well really have a look at every other rule set that's out there and just use your Kill Team minis, really, mightn't you? And see if there's something better. Stotty's Man Cave says, single piece are so much better than the build ones, and them Enforcers legs, seriously, I was shaking in a dark corner. I remember building my Enforcers a long time ago. I don't even know where they are now. I think I've lost them, basically. But, yeah, I didn't have any fun building those ones. David Mackay, hello, mate. He's saying you could always buy the Games Workshop minis and play the Deadzone rules. You could do, mate, but then I guess you kind of... I mean, you can, without a shadow of a doubt. You could do that with any game. You could buy, for example, you could buy the Deadzone minis and play the Kill Team rules if that was what you preferred, kind of thing. But yeah, it's for me. I always just it's one more. I like to know what something is when I see it on the board, and that's one of the reasons that I really like playing games that have a miniatures range. Because I know I can kind of research, I can look at them, I can look at them online, and I'll say, oh, I know what kind of marine that is, for example, or I know what kind of untamed beast that is, because I know exactly what it does. When somebody is playing with completely different miniatures, whilst I would never refuse to play, I'd be constantly going, what's that again? What does that do? Which model is that meant to be? And in the flow of the game, I can kind of... I'm fine with kind of like just friendly games, but if I was playing like an event or something, that can get quite, for me personally, can get quite difficult to keep a track of. Claudio says, I think Deadzone is really crunchy and tactical when you get your head around the game. Kill Team was always a stand and shoot when I played, and then nothing happened. I think the problem with Kill Team is if you don't have enough terrain, it does become a shooting game. Because basically you have so many open lines of sight that you basically just get up high and basically shoot anything that moves. Especially if you don't move, you get to shoot first. What I found with Kill Team was the more terrain you had, and the more kind of your kind of close combat armies could move around and hide in cover, it made the game way more interesting. The dice rolling thing was still there, to be fair, as well, though. Where we at? Paul says, totally agree about the perspective on Deadzone model quality. Very variable. Lots of models are good enough, although very few are excellent. The game wins on gameplay, but lose on model quality. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at, Paul, to be fair. That's exactly sums it up. Master Sergeant Carr says, I've played 40k for decades. Kill Team is okay, but Deadzone plays much better. So that's coming from somebody that plays 40k. I would say Deadzone does play better. It doesn't make Kill Team a bad game. I've enjoyed my games of Kill Team. But I do feel like I've missed bits out to make it more accessible for me. Which I guess I kind of, unless I'm playing an event or something like that, then that's fine. Daniel Engel says, I'm very interested to see how 40k small games will play out. Me too, mate. Definitely want to find out more about it. Vormwood's in tonight as well. Good evening, Vormwood. Standard Tabletop says, not surprising to me that the Deadzone versus Kill Team discussion is so similar to the Dread Ball versus Blood Bowl discussion. I don't think I've ever had that discussion, mate, because I've not played them, but it's quite well, I did a Warcry versus Vanguard discussion a while ago. However, a lot of these things boil down, like I said before, to, well, it depends on what you can play. Like, if you're somebody like me that doesn't really go to a games club very often, or hasn't in the past, and play most of your games at home, it doesn't matter what game you choose because it's just between you and your regular opponent, if you like. But if you're going to be going to like a games club, or you're going to be playing at a gaming store or something, or you want to play a lot of events, that might be the deciding factor for you. Corvus Games Terrain saying he agrees on the enforcers. The legs are awful and the detail on the face is pretty soft. I think they were also like the first things that were ever sculpted for Deadzone as well. Luke's saying he's going through the planning of magnetising the Deadzone terrain. God, there's not enough time in my life to be magnetising this stuff, mate. Honestly, what I've done is I've just glued it into subsections. So basically, when I use it for any other game, like I've got a building there that I can play. But then, for example, like this one can kind of, I mean, not these ones because I don't. But if I put them side by side, you know, then all of a sudden they're kind of connecting in different ways. I'll show you that in the video when I get the video finished. Ravnos is saying played Kill Team first edition and was disappointed when using anything except Marines. Not had an issue with any of the Deadzone factions I've tried. To be fair, mate, Kill Team first edition is still what's there now. It hasn't changed. It's a new starter set, but it's still the same Kill Team rules. I've played a few different factions in it, and I'll be honest, I've enjoyed the games, but I think I've been playing really, really kind of loose, fun games with a few mates. I've not played anything like bordering on competitive or anything like that. Vaughan Wood saying the Deadzone terrain was so good until Archon Studios made their modular Lego terrain. I don't know that stuff, mate, to be fair. Actually, is that the Kickstarter? Has that released yet? Jern Wins found a great alternative to Deadzone Enforcers. Scotia Grendel has sprues of old Void Troopers. 10 for £5 includes shields as well as those who need it. Interesting, mate. Kelly Caudle says, so Kill Team needs to be war-cry-defied. Do you know what, Kelly? Let me just pull up an email, because somebody sent me an email recently, and I haven't had a chance to reply to it yet, because I've started to get into a routine of like kind of replying to my mails kind of once a week rather than just trying to keep sort of doing them. And where was it? Here it is. So somebody called R38, I think it is. If there's anybody in the chat, thank you very much for this email. I will get back to you. But essentially, basically, I wanted to reach out because of my recent live stream, The Death of Kill Team. And basically, several times during your stream, people mentioned how thrilling a fusion of the Kill Team setting with Warcry rule set would be. I recall you mentioning that you are sure that someone is probably working on that. Well, your suspicions are correct. So this person, Leandra, has basically written an unofficial skirmish game called Kill Cry. Now, I haven't had a chance to kind of go into any depth in it, but it looks like they're basically taking the best of Kill Team, the best of Warcry, and kind of Warcry-fying Kill Team. So, when I get a chance to have a good read through that and get back to that person, yeah, we might even have a chat one stream about that, because if it works well, it could answer the questions for those that prefer the 40k universe, if you like. Master Sergeant Cat says, Kill Team dice rules bog it down for me. I prefer the straightforward way of resolving hits and damage in Deadzone. Yeah, I agree. Frantic saying, has anyone tried Deadzone solo? Is it any good? I've not tried it personally, mate, but I've heard good things. Claudio saying, Deadzone is constantly developed. We had every year a new containment protocol, which many new missions, items, special ways to play, and new additions are coming this year too. Yeah, so it is kind of, it's been more developed through the rule books as opposed to kind of lots of new miniatures, in the way, like, to be fair, Kill Team's had no new miniatures really since the game launched. Starty's Man Kid, I don't think there'll be another Kill Team. Combat Propol will fill that void. I'm not sure, mate. It wouldn't surprise me if they do something with it down the line, but only if I think there's an audience for it. And I say that because I don't know how popular as a kind of like the Kill Team community is now. Thank you very much, Christian, for sharing all the links as well. I did notice you were sharing them before, but I obviously was rambling away. Dice Hand says, dice rolling Kill Team is a pain in the ass on one hand, but also gives you the touch of simulation. Good dice rolling mechanics for skirmish games are like with Mortal Crisis Protocol or X-Wing as an example. Yeah, I think sometimes even custom dice can be better than constant dice rolling, or up the dice up it to a D8, up it to a D12, up it to a D20 or something like that, and do something different. or have face-to-face rules or something. I quite like the way Infinity does their rules, to be fair. That kind of face-to-face rule, hitting your target number and whoever gets higher and that kind of stuff. VJ saying about people can argue about Dread Bowl versus Blood Bowl, but they won't. Blitzball is clearly a superior game. John Estel, which has just jumped. If I can find it back now. Let me find that. Where the heck was it? That's jumping a long way. I've just got to find VG's. There it was. Mantic are developing Deadzone XL, which will see bigger games, but still developing the universe. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that, mate, because I'm not sure if anybody's kind of crying out for a larger scale Deadzone. Like, you can play larger scale games of Deadzone now by putting two boards together. So I don't know what the difference is, but I'll be interested to hear more about it. David Mackay says they're very much different companies. Mantic is very small in comparison. Yeah, they are. They definitely are. But it's a double-edged sword, because Mantic will put more time and money and resources into developing Deadzone stuff if there was more people playing it, and kind of it becomes a bit chicken and egg, doesn't it? Tony Seals, I want to see model improvement for Deadzone. I want to see a decent rule set for Kill Team. Yeah, that's a fair point. Born to Lose, Live to Win says, I think for me, I'd like Kill Team just because it's the 40k universe. And to be honest, mate, that's a huge draw for a lot of people. And that's really why I'm kind of like trying to tell you the differences, because just because it's kind of set in that universe doesn't mean it's the better game. But I think if in your head you have this kind of narrative that you're playing out these stories that you've read about in books, for example, you can forgive certain rules, I think. And I've mentioned this many, many times. The best games are the ones that you have fun playing with the people you play with. You can forgive some bad models sometimes, and you can forgive some bad rules sometimes if you're having fun playing the game. Tony says, I want to play a game of not have bits of game intercept with rooting through rules, Deadzone all the way for me. I must admit, I never found the rules for Kill Team difficult, that I had to keep looking through the rules to look them up. It's one of the reasons I did a few of those kind of 5 rules people get wrong, because they were more overlooked than kind of like difficult to get your head round. I actually found the rules to Kill Team not that bad. There was just a lot to remember, because as soon as you start playing with specialisms, and as soon as you start playing with a multitude of different stratagems, there's quite a bit kind of going on to remember. So it's not that the rules are difficult. There's just more to remember. Claudio says, for me personally, Deadzone minis are nicer than GW, but just because I don't like the 40k style anymore, that's why it's a win-win for Deadzone for me. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be being honest if I said that I like the Deadzone minis better than the 40k stuff. I've always liked the 40k minis, and I cannot fault Games Workshop's quality. The aesthetic for every single mini might not be for me, but I can't fault the quality. I think one of the problems Deadzone has is the inconsistency across the range, I would say, and I would love to see them developed. I think, unfortunately, because Warpath isn't huge either, I think we're unlikely to see a lot of stuff. We certainly won't get things like Enforcers being remade, for example. Tony says, I want to play... Oh, yeah, I've just read that one, sorry. Jonathan Wyborn says, Indomitor's price rumours are getting interesting. Suggestions seem to have it around £150. The limited run destroyed any interest I may have had. Kill Team will probably change again over time. I think don't misunderstand the limited run thing, mate. I think what they're saying is, this is a launch box, right? So, I think there'll be enough to go around. If you want a box set, there'll be one there for you. I don't think, I would say, there's going to be in short supply. However, I think what they're saying is, if you want one, pick it up, because once they're all gone, and it might take 6 months for them all to go, or they might all be gone in a month, for example, then they're not going to reprint this again, because essentially you can pick up the rule book, you can pick up the factions that you want. They're using this, and they do this all the time, and I might make a separate video on this at some point, but they use these sets to fund all of the new sculpts and all of the new tooling for this kind of stuff, because they've essentially launched 2 new armies, if you like, or 2 new full model ranges, And the quickest way to make that money back is to put it in a box set and sell them by the shed load. So I can see what they're doing. Also, the fact that it's all new models in these sets. Why keep selling it at a discount, basically? Because it's roughly twice the value, isn't it? Like half the cost of the cost of buying the models individually, if you like. So I can see why they're doing it. And then what they'll do is a bit like the first Strike sets. We'll probably see a smaller kind of entry-level starter set, if you like, to get people into the game. You can buy the rule book and everything else. So it hasn't turned me off, to be fair, and I really like the models that's in there. So I'll be picking it up. But, yeah, I think we're going to be around, I would say around 125, 130, I would imagine. And then, of course, most shops will have 20%, 25% discount as well, bringing it down under the £100 mark. Peter Cooman says, I believe the big thing about Deadzone is that everyone plays the same game. Kill Team divides with Commanders, Arena, etc. I think the more you kind of you delve into the Kill Team communities and stuff, I think you'll find it's not as fragmented as you first think. I think hardly anybody plays Arena. I think hardly anybody plays. It's either Commanders or Elites, one of the two. I think it's Elites. I think most people play a combination of core rules and Commanders. I might have that the wrong way around with Elites and Commanders, but I think it's less fragmented than you would think, because I think a lot of the kind of the main community, if you're just playing at home, it doesn't really matter what you're playing. But if you're playing like regularly at stores or at events, I think the competitive community have kind of settled on a rules or an expansion thing that they use. So I think it's less fragmented than you would think. Master Sergeant Cat says, I also use Deadzone minis as custom mercs in my Sedition Wars games, so Deadzone serves multiple purposes. Ravnos says, only reason I have any GW stuff is I find it easier to get games when working away. It's a massive big thing, isn't it, mate? It's a massive big thing. Mark says, who won the Deadzone challenge? I can't remember now. Call somebody. It was Call Newbold, mate. Call Newbold won the Deadzone challenge. Brian Sheen, good evening to you, sir. It says Kill Team tends to get bogged down in horde and spam tactics. Yeah, I know what you mean, but again, I think a lot of it is to do with the amount of board. And it's like any game, actually. The more activations you have, the more kind of control you can have. However, the weaker some of their models are, and if they're not hitting very often anyway, it kind of, it swings and roundabouts. Marco says, I regret buying the Commanders expansion. I didn't buy any of the expansions, mate, to be fair. I did buy Arena, and I've never ever played it. Steve saying 8 train choo choo. I love the exploding 8s. It's one of the best parts of Kill Team, of Deadzone rather. Excuse me. Master Sergeant Cat says Deadzone has better rules for dealing with terrain, cover, and movement. It was easier to teach his children Deadzone. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. It's much more intuitive, I think. It's less kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, it's less like not objective. Object. No, I can't even think of the word. But yeah, it's easier in Deadzone. Vermont says, I'm the opposite. I want big army games to run quick and my smaller skirmish games to be more in-depth. Interesting, mate. Interesting. See, if I'm playing smaller games, it's because I've got less time. So therefore, I want my skirmish games to run quick. If that makes sense. Scott says, so when we play in Deadzone and Kill Team, then Andy. On that comment, I think it's weird at the minute. I mean, I'm going completely off topic now, but my local gaming store, or one of my local gaming stores, is opened again today. And from Wednesday, you can get a gaming table now, so you can go and play. They've got like some kind of social distancing rules in place that I haven't fully kind of looked into yet. But essentially, you can go and play games again. Now, this feels completely wrong to me because I can get in my car. I can drive all the way to the gaming store. I can go to the gaming store indoors where there's loads of other people and I can play. But I can't go to my mate's house and play a game there. Still kind of distancing away from him in exactly the same way. where I know exactly where he's been for the last 3 months. He knows exactly where I've been for the last 3 months. But I can't go and play a game there. However, he could get in his car and go to the gaming store, and I can get in my car and go to the gaming store, and we can play against each other. I'm baffled by it. It's weird. Scott says he's still got his kill team. I've got loads of kill team stuff, mate. Marco says the most annoying thing about kill team, the lack of flash wound tokens. Flesh wound tokens. They must have expected you to kill more models. Paul says you can do some cool stuff with the Deadzone terrain. You just have to get creative. Yeah, you certainly can. And actually, if you look on the Mantic website, you can see a lot of the stuff. It's not all square, flat buildings. In fact, let me see if I can get like, let's see if I can get some of the terrain stuff up here and show the kind of stuff that you can buy. I mean, this is maybe not showing off at its best, but let me just... So I've got this set here. This is one of the sets that I'm busy... Let me zoom in a bit more. Oh, it gets... So that's interesting. It gets smaller as I zoom in. I've got this set here, which is part of what I'm doing here. You can kind of... I think this is... Oh, no, this is part of a different... Oh, I think actually that might be the building at the back there, kind of in that direction. It's part of... I've kind of built up slightly differently. But there is some, like... Yes, it's square and it works really well with Deadzone, but there are some other stuff. I mean, there's another set that's got kind of like a landing pad in it as well. So it's not all really kind of flat square stuff, although it can be. So yeah. Scott's saying I'm going to try and use infinity terrain for Deadzone. I think the problem is, mate, it's not like... It's not 3-inch squares, if you like. I mean, you can use it, certainly. You just have to... When you're coming up to the next level, you kind of have to see it. Like you've almost got to like, is it in this square? Is it in that square? That's the only thing. And I wouldn't want to be starting to draw lines on it. That's for sure. George is in as well. Good evening, George. He says never played Kill Team, but Deadzone is a great quick game. Love it. Love the game mechanics. Brennick says at least they explain the reason for the terrain being like that in the lore. They're made from containers. Yeah, and I don't mind that actually. I quite like the fact that it's like this. It kind of fits because, like I said before, I think like if you're going to like some planet where you're essentially just, it's quite utilitarian. Really, it's functional. You're not gonna, like I said before, basically like there's no job for architects kind of thing. Really, do you know what I mean? Yeah, transport the materials to make the colony, exactly. Master Sergeant Katz says, also money-wise, it's cheaper to get new people into Deadzone. The entry price point is just right. I don't think Kill Team's that expensive to get into, mate. You can still just... There are certain factions, like, for example, Death Watch. You can buy a Death Watch box for like 20, 30 quid and have a Kill Team ready to go. In just the same way you can buy a Deadzone faction box and have one ready to go. So some factions are more expensive, but I don't think it's that. I don't think it's like night and day. It's not as different as you would think. Born to Lose, Live to Win says I'm in the Northeast too. Any ideas on the best friendlies clubs that play 40k Kill Team that will have enough patience with a total noob like me? Any club should have patience, mate. And if they haven't got patience, you don't want to be going there anyway. But 40k wise. Certainly the clubs that are local to me, so people like the Newcastle Warlords have a big 40k community. Less on the Kill Team side of things, but definitely have a big 40k community. Battle Bunker in Sunderland, which is a local store to me, they've got a lot of 40k players in there as well, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to kind of help you out. And then, of course, obviously you've got the GW shops. The problem you've got at the minute, mate, is the clubs are not running, and GW shops are not playing games either. So it's bad times really to try and start, but it's not. What was I going to say there? Yeah, you'll find the club here. Let's have a chat. I remember you talking. You kind of like not Durham way, Darlington way maybe. You're a little bit further south than me, mate, aren't you? But yeah, we'll have a chat in the group, mate. Where are we at? Paul is saying, I posted this to the BlackJack Legacy group a few weeks ago. It's made from Mantic scenery kits. I'll have to have a look at that, mate. Unless I've seen it already. Vincent says, as far as I know, Deadzone is an alternative rule set which uses a distance measuring approach, but it's actually possible to build terrain that doesn't look blocky while actually being cut into squares. I think the distance measuring one, mate, is the Warpath Firefight rules, I think. David says Deadzone version 1 had enforcers with legs attached to the hips. No idea why they separated them on the newer models. I've got both version 1 and version 2. It was enforcers and plague in the first set. I can't find any of my enforcer models. I have no idea where they are, so I can't even remember. I can't even comment. VG says that terrain looks a little bit better, but still really cubic, which I guess, given the rules, has to get away from. Yeah, exactly, mate. Mike says, I agree, too many dice rolls. Dustin saying, you have to train yourself not to build 3-inch cubes. I think Family of Gamers had a piece I copied. It was a 3x5 wall with openings, variety of structures sticking out. No symmetry in the piece. You can do that, mate, but essentially, one of the beauties of having these 3-inch cubes is when you get up to higher levels, like, that is still the cube that you're standing in. So for example, you could put this in between 2 different cubes and have half in one cube and half in another. But then you're trying to decide, like, where's the dividing line. It's more for ease of use. Really, I think that's the problem. David says, hey everybody, I was distracted with working on my patio, forgot the show, made some bee wasp angry when I discovered its hive. Oh dear me, I hope you're alright. David saying the quality wasn't there on the early models, restic, I think. I don't think they were restic, mate. I think they were PVC plastics, I think. Mike's in there, but that is a 40k issue too. Too many dice rolls. Yeah. I think, to be fair, you're saying it's a 40k issue. Most games have quite a lot of dice rolls, to be fair. I mean, even if you think of Kings of War, you roll to hit, you roll to wound, and you do your what do you call your roll? I forget what it's called now, but your route roll type thing. So other games still have lots of dice rolls. Claudio saying, what are the unit options now in Kill Team? I hated the Marines had 8 entries and Chaos only had Marines and Cultists. I don't think Marines actually had that many options, mate. I think they probably had more. But essentially, the way the Kill Team stuff works is the units that you can use, you only get the weapon options that come in that box, which I think is actually really good. So if I bought a box of 10 Marines, there's no there's no weapon profiles where I'd suddenly have to buy this obscure box just to get a rocket launcher or something like that from it. So they were quite clever in that respect. I think that I've said this many times before, but the big thing they were missing was specific sort of Kill Team boxes. Even when they did those Kill Team boxes, they were like a starter box. So for example, that Wolves of Ulrich thing has got 5 Reavers in it. It's not enough for a Kill Team. And they did an Orc box, and there wasn't enough Orcs in there for a Kill Team. It was a starter box, and you still had to go and buy more Orcs to field a full Kill Team. 100-point Kill Team. So yeah, it's there's a mix of stuff, mate, but it's not expanded much from that. That core book is still the core book. There's been more factions have come in now, through White Dwarf and stuff, and you can use some of the Blackstone Fortress minis and bits of new models that have come out, but. Yeah, it's not expanded a lot, and it's one of the things I talked about last week. I think if you're getting into it because you love the 40k universe, 500 points 40k games give you a lot more freedom of choice. Yeah, Paul's saying that always be limited to blocky shapes to a degree, but also find that with a lot of high density fiber kits. Yeah, I would agree as well, mate. A lot of them kind of are very square as well. David's hiding from the bees. Simon says, can't wait for the Matsudan to get released in Deadzone, and Asterians are calling out for some fat sumo lizards. Kelly says, the opponent rule is so true. It's Titanic. This is an amazing rule that I never get to play because nobody local plays it. Same with Aeronautica Imperialis. Yeah, I quite like the idea of Aeronautica Imperialis. I just know I won't get it to the table. Standard tabletop says, I'm planning to have subsections similar to yours, but then sections can magnetize to join them for walkways. I'm just using the clips for the walkways, mate, to be fair. I find that the clips are good enough for certain sections. I wouldn't want this whole thing. So all I did with this was, you'll see it in the video, but the little clips that I basically join these together, you might be able to see them here. Let me see if I can get that to zoom. So here, these little clips that join pieces together, I just push fit them in by hand and basically got the table layout the way I wanted it. And then once I was happy with it, I just dropped in the plastic cement glue and basically just like almost glued the clips rather than actually gluing the whole thing together. But as you can see, it ain't going anywhere. It's solid kind of thing. Yeah, and Standard Tabletop, they said it's Archon Studios. I guess that hasn't fulfilled yet. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, mate, as well. I'll skip forward a little bit. I'll dive in. Barry Cliver says someone has to mention Necromunda, so I will. Really enjoy that game, but it's a whole different thing. I've played more Warcry than Kill Team. Yeah, I've done a couple of videos about Necromunda versus Kill Team because I think people who don't know the games very well see them both sci-fi games, few number of models, both 40k universe-ish. What's the difference? And yeah, they're completely different elements. I don't mind Necromunda being that bit more crunchy because it's not designed to be a quick game, where Kill Team was sold as this really fast play on your lunch break quick game kind of thing. Kelly Caudle says core rules and elites is the standard. I knew it was one, Kelly. Thank you very much. Capsule says here in Poland we play core and elites. Yeah, thank you very much. I first of all, thanks for coming to chat. I couldn't remember which one it was. I knew it was one or the other. I couldn't remember which one it was, but I knew there was basically kind of like a standard setting that most people seems to use now. Master Sergeant Cat says Warcry great, Necromunda good, Kill Team taxing on my patience, would rather play small 40k battles. John says abstract was the word. Thank you, mate. I couldn't think what it was. I played a simplified Deadzone with my 6-year-old. He loves it. Tonio Foreman, nice to see you, Tonio. He says GW Pros, awesome minis. Everyone knows GW, big support, but Mantic produce great games. And mate, Deadzone is life. Yeah, like I say, if you can get local players playing it, I would pick Deadzone over Kill Team every day of the week. I think, purely based upon the fact that it just plays so much faster, and my old brain can remember the rules. Peter says, good to know Kill Team is less fragmented, but I'll admit, when I was just about to pull the trigger on Kill Team, I just didn't know if I needed anything else other than the starter. To be honest, mate, it was one of the reasons I fell out with Kill Team as well, there was a load of expansions came out and I wasn't really sure what they were for, or they weren't really marketed as expansions. They were almost marketed as, oh, you need this, and you need this, and you need this kind of thing, where when Warcry come out, they were very definitely like optional expansions. David Maggie says that's what the UK government does best. Bloggy's in as well. Hello, Bloggy. How you doing? John says better weather and garden gaming for the win. Do you know what, mate? I've got like a gazebo thing, you know, like a kind of one that you can put up. And I definitely think about having some garden gaming on the go. It just gets a little bit breezy in my garden because it's kind of open to the back. It's kind of like farmland out to the back, so it's pretty open. So if there's any breeze, all your models go blown off the table. Greg Cherry says, is that the law there? We've been playing with my buds in California since lockdown. Pretty safe if you're with close friends and they have been social distance. So the law in the UK at the minute, mate, is you cannot go into people's homes. You can now visit another family outdoors in their garden, but you must keep 2 meters away from each other. And the only time you're allowed to enter the house is to pass through the house to go into the garden if there's no outside access. But I can't go to a friend's house. I can't go to a family's house. You're not allowed to kind of go into anybody's homes at the moment. However, today the rules changed and basically all non-essential shops reopened today, which means gaming stores and hobby centres and stuff have all opened today. A lot of them are saying no gaming. Which to be honest, I kind of understand, because they're trying to not get people indoors for long periods of time together, closely together. The local stores basically moved a lot of tables out and created more space between them, but we're supposed to stay 2 meters apart at the minute, and I can't see how you can stay 2 meters apart playing across a 4-foot table. So if you play it by the letter of the law, I don't see how the shop can open for gaming personally. However, if you are playing, like if I'm playing with a friend and I know they've not left the house for 3 months because they haven't been to work, they've been staying at home with their family, like surely that's safer than going to a gaming shop. But by the letter of the law, that's not how it works. Bloggy saying you spelled Warcaster and Neo Mechanica wrong twice. That game is not for me, mate. I'll be completely honest. As soon as I watched that first playthrough, it completely turned me off. I didn't even get anywhere near that Kickstarter pre-order thing, whatever it was. Peter Nicholas says, going to your mate's house doesn't affect the economy. Going to your local gaming store or any shop may well do. Profit over people. Yeah, I don't disagree with that one, mate. Claudia says, what's more important on your buildings? Simple orbit dropped cubist buildings or 100 skulls on your buildings? I'll be honest, mate. I mean, the stuff I've got for Kill Team, which was in the core set for Kill Team, is still pretty square. It's still like... in fact, I'm going to show you the stuff I've got. It's... So this is my Kill Team terrain. So it's kind of like cathedral, kind of ruined kind of chapel type stuff. And it's absolutely beautiful, don't get me wrong. It is absolutely gorgeous, but it's still a square block, to be fair. It's still a square block. It's not, I mean, it's more decorated than that. But it's still cubic. So actually thinking about it, it's not that, like it's a, if I get these couple of bits out here, excuse me, and apologise if it's kind of banging on the microphone there as well. Now whilst it is absolutely beautiful terrain, and I love it, and from a modularity point of view, you can kind of build these bits up into kind of big buildings. And it, like I say, it's beautiful. But it's still square. And actually, there's not a lot of skulls on it, to be fair, either. Tony says, I think the gaming store is in very small minority. I know many game store owners and not see in-store game happen soon. Yeah, I was really surprised when they basically said they were opening for a couple of days this week. First of all, Monday, Tuesday, just for the store itself, just to kind of, to get open and see how it was. And then gaming starts on Wednesday. I'm certain if I can't have a game in my house with somebody, there's no way I'm going to a gaming store to have a game. Ravnos the same pair, both of them clubs in the past. Both of them clubs. Are you local as well, Ravnos? Are you? Lee Burns says, evening all, played a fair bit of Kill Team and enjoyed it apart from that rule with the flesh wounds. Looking forward to putting 2 Kill Team boards together though for 500 points of 4K. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a bit of 500 point 40K as well, mate. Master Sergeant Cat says, correction, a few Deadzone teams, $40 and Rulebook is free. Kill Team varies per faction and books add up quickly in cost. That's why I feel Deadzone is better for new players. Like for like, so like for like, Kill Team book is 25 quid and Deadzone book is £30. You can get the free version online if you like digital rules. I'm not a fan of digital rules personally, but it's good enough to give it a start and give it a try. However, the latest point costs are in the Kill Team book. The new point costs are in a subsequent book for Deadzone. So it's, I still. So for example, if you then buy the updated rules, like the updated point costs and stuff, the more balanced stuff, even at its cheapest price for the digital one, it's still going to cost you like $12.50 or whatever. And the Kill Team book's 25 quid. So it's only 15 quid difference between them, really. Only £10 difference or £12 difference between them. So, especially if you can get a Kill Team book from a gaming store with 20% discount or something, all of a sudden it's starting to get down again, so it's near 20 quid. It's not as far apart as you would think, to be fair. Where was that up to? Paul says the Mantic terrain does have some 45-degree angle connectors in some kits. Yeah, you can, mate, as well. I noticed there was some in some of the stuff I've got as well. Scott's just found his unbuilt enforcers. Nerve test. That's the one I was trying to think of, mate. Yeah, nerve test. Thank you very much. It's been a long day. I've been on the go working, like on kind of on channel stuff since about 8:45 this morning, and I haven't stopped yet. So I've been going. What's that? 12. About 13 and a half hours. Yeah, my brain's frazzled now. David Mackay says the holes in the Deadzone scenery have a use. Some models can move through, while larger models have to go around. That's true. Each of those gaps. So these things here. So obviously this kind of doorway gap here will fit one certain size through. These holes in here will fit certain smaller size models through, and it kind of same with these holes in the side for certain sizes as well. So yeah, it does. It's kind of the terrain's being designed around the game as well. Ryan's in as well. Hello, Ryan. How are you doing? Says, sorry if you've already discussed it. Are you going to play any of the new 40k? Yes, that's my plan, mate. I mean, I've been sort of watching with interest, trying not to get kind of caught up in the hype. But I'll be completely honest. The more I've watched about it, the more I'm interested in small scale 500 point games, or where they're 25 power. I think they're talking about. I probably won't go much bigger than that. But I like the idea of playing some smaller scale 40k games. So yes, I will be trying that, mate. I intend to buy the box set. This weekend I was doing a bit of hobby for myself rather than for channel stuff. And over there is the start of my 40k stuff. Mark says, what put me off Kill Team was they didn't sell a Kill Team in a box. That's where Deadzone and Warcry went for me. 100% agree with you, mate. That was the one thing that was missing. Bit of chat going backwards and forwards there about economically motivated, and the rules are really confusing and upsetting for families. Yeah, I mean, so they've got this kind of, we're going off topic a little bit here, but they've got this weird rule now where if you are a single parent, for example, you can go and, so for example, my dad, like my mum's dead and my dad lives on his own, so I can go and visit him and he can be part of my family bubble. However, I can't go and visit him into his house because my sister is going to see him to look after, like to kind of take him food and stuff like that, because she lives closer. So she can go and see him, but I can't, because now he is part of her family bubble. And there's these weird rules about this kind of stuff. So like my kids, but basically like my older kids, I've not seen them for weeks because basically like they live with their mum and her partner and his son. And like, so, yeah, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. Anyway, let's not get onto that one. The quicker it disappears, the better. Sean Blake says, hey, my dudes, how you doing, Sean? Vaughn Wood says, yeah, it's Archon Studios, not sure about them delivering on pledges. Yes. VG says, game stores are open in Australia, but I think most are still not doing in-store games. Jippin says gaming indoors is a bad move right now. I 100% agree, guys. I'm really surprised, I'll be honest. I'm really surprised. And it's kind of like, I understand that the guy wants to kind of get his business going again. I do understand that. However, it's like £2.50 for a table. It's not exact. I'd rather he sold like annual memberships now or something like that and honoured them when he reopens properly to kind of get some money in the coffers if that was the case. I find it risky. I mean, he's even got like tournaments lined up now as well. I just find it random. Born to Lose, Lift to Win says, get yourself a Tesco shopping bag and if the fuzz pull you over, just see you off to the shops. Let's talk board games. Says, Deadzone has the perfect terrain for 3D printing. Yes, if you're into 3D printing, it does have good terrain for that. Vaughn Wood saying that stuff is fully modular from what I've seen, but I don't have any myself. I've just been drooling at it. I assume you're talking about the Kill Team stuff, mate. Kill Team stuff is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And to be fair, yeah, like I say, so I mean, I talked about what came in. So this was all in the original Kill Team starter box. So there was these bits. I don't know if I can. Will you be able to see that there? So that's on the kind of like the second layer. So that kind of locks into there. There's some kind of smaller pieces, so you can kind of have them onto the corners and stuff like that as well. I mean, there was so much stuff in that box. I'll probably be able to use that for a 500-point game of 40k, to be fair. So it's not really costing me anything to get started and give 40k a try, other than the cost of either the cost of a rule book or the cost of the new starter kit if I want it. Because I've got models to use already. I'm not buying anything for it while I still own stuff that I haven't painted in ages. I've got terrain. I've got a mat that's the right size. I'm kind of ready to go other than the rules. Busey saying that those UK rules are crazy when you see about 1,000 people trying to get into the Nike Town thing this morning. People queuing up at 7 o'clock this morning to go to Primark to buy cheap T-shirts. Honestly, I am absolutely baffled by the whole thing. Andrew Fairbanks says our Warhammer store reopened about 2 or 3 weeks ago. 2 patrons max, no gaming. Yeah, I think our Games Workshop stores are opening now as well. Exactly the same thing. Essentially, basically, so many people in the shop, no gaming. No kind of, like, almost contact them first and see if they've got in stock what you want, because there's no kind of hanging about, chatting and browsing. It's a case of, like, topping up hobby supplies now, really. Dustin saying it's weird being in New Zealand and hear about COVID-19 rules in other places. Yeah, I can imagine, mate. Daniel says, my friendly local game store is opening for gaming at the end of June. Players have to sign a waiver absolving store from any responsibility if someone gets sick. Do you know what it is? I find that horrendous, because that is not it. The store. How can the store absolve itself from responsibility? Basically, like if people get sick, the store still has to close down. Like they still have to kind of shut. It's not a case of it's not my problem kind of thing. David Moffat says, I always like to look at Deadzone terrain. Yeah, I quite like it, to be fair, mate. I like it. Paul saying might be mostly cubic, but GW's is mostly L-shaped corner pieces. I don't know what gave you that idea, mate, that all of this stuff was L-shaped corner pieces. I'm not really sure what you mean. Daniel's in Pennsylvania. VG is saying different strokes depends on what fits with the world, I guess. Yeah, exactly, mate. Daniel saying masks still required as well. Marcus says you just need Battle Scribe for point and tactics. Yeah, you do, mate. To be fair, I forgot about Battle Scribe. VJ says now on to figuring out the Deadzone stats for all the kill team factions. Paul saying honestly, I have both the GW runes and the Deadzone cubes. Yeah, I'm really fortunate as well. Christian's just sent me a load of 3D printed stuff, which is absolutely awesome as well. I'm busy trying to get as much of it ready as I can, so when I can start to get people to play against, I might actually start to do some battle reports as well. Standard Tabletop says, right, Gazebo will be up for the weekend. Come down to is it Ellie or Eli for gaming in the garden? We can play games that don't pass pieces and you don't have to leave your bubble. We can make this work, people. Yeah, I mean, it's getting to a point, and I'm sorry to go on about it, but it's kind of frustrating me. It's getting to a point where I can sit, me and my family are kind of sticking to the rules. We're just kind of making sure we're safe. There's been really low cases of it in my local area, like in North Tyneside where I am. However, we're playing by the rules kind of thing. But generally, I'm busy. I get the impression, I feel like there's only us left, and everybody's went, sod it. We're just going to do what we want now. David saying the kill team starter terrain looks great too. Can't wait to build it someday. It's fantastic, mate. It's definitely one of the nicest kits I've got. Tony says, I think the reason I bought the kill team rules was because it was 20 quid and I had some plague minis kicking around. Yeah, I can imagine that would be a good move. Claudio saying we played Deadzone co-op on 2 matches 2 weeks ago, mostly Deadzone terrain, those high Adeptus Mechanicus tank things, and it was awesome, worked without problems. Get a laser if not sure. I get that, but then does that not just slow it down again? Robert Marshall says, evening all, I'm late, but I'm on nights. I'll catch this later. No worries, mate. Mike G says, what about us Uggos? I don't even know what that is, mate. Scott says, I've joined the hype train. Choo choo, my Ducari's getting bigger. Paul Eman says, just say here is cleaner. I have seen people saying online that I'm going to employ my parents as a cleaner because then they can come round to my house. But they can't just... So if they're a cleaner, they can come round. But I've seen one saying, I'm going to employ my mum and dad to build an extension because builders can come round. It's absolutely random. It's just nuts. Claudio's saying the UK room seemed randomly rolled. Do you know what it is, mate? It feels like the UK rules are based upon the kill team rules. You have to roll 4+4 times in a row to get out of the house. Do not pass go. Peter saying, you saying Andy's dad needs cleaning. Master Sergeant Cat says, game store here in Nashville allowing 2 or 3 tables for public gaming. Daniel saying, meanwhile in the US you can't break social distances unless you go to a protest with thousands of others. The same thing's happening in the UK, mate, to be fair. Like somebody mentioned, there was almost fights to get into a Nike store that opened this morning. Scott saying, I can set up a table in my garden if you want to come over and chuck some dice, mate. I've got the space in my garden as well, to be fair, mate. It's more a case of it's too bloody windy and all the bits blow off the table. And the weather's so unpredictable. But yeah, let's sort something, mate. I'm sure we can sort something. Spunky Taz says, so what I need to do then is try and find a cleaner that's up for a game of Deadzone. Maybe that should be my new business model now. I am now a mobile Deadzone cleaner. Scott saying, I'm gutted I sold all my 40k terrain and kill team stuff when I swore I wouldn't ever play the games again. Marco saying, I'm planning to mix Warcry and kill team together. Beautiful. Steve says, Uncertain Scene, we do some lovely stuff. They do, mate. They do some lovely stuff. Arthur and Claudio saying about using his kill team terrain for Deadzone. Yes. Standard tabletops, as you say, E. Lee. So the letter E before the name Lee. So many people have a problem with it. I also, when I went to local town at the end, drove through, nobody looked like they cared anymore. Honestly, it is proper random. Paul saying, my mum is legit our cleaner. We used to have one before we moved, but my mum only lives 10 minutes walk away now. She said she would do the cleaning for the same fee. Spanky tells me I nurse coming twice a week at the moment, but I can see me getting into trouble if I ask any of them like to role play with me. John Estel says, what tier on Patreon is that Deadzone cleaning option? I'm sure we can negotiate a fee, mate. Don't worry. Yes. Well, how are we doing? It is 10 to 11, so we'll do it till 11 o'clock. We'll do the last 10 minutes, and we'll just have a bit of a random chat. First of all, folks, thank you very much everybody that's come in tonight. Secondly, I know Christian shared the Patreon link before, but for those that are new to the channel tonight, this is what I do for a living. This is now my full-time job. I don't get paid by any games companies to do this. I don't do any sponsored links or anything like that. All of my income is basically donated and basically from Patreons and from support from viewers. So thank you very much anybody that already does that. We also had Phil Wilkinson was new to the Patreon this week as well. And anybody that is interested, please do check out my Patreon link. There's many different things. Thank you, Christians, just sharing that as well. And there's many different tiers in there, and you get different bonuses and different benefits as well. So thank you very much. Vijay saying needs to get his shit together for a morning run. Scott's saying 4 days off from 7 a.m. tomorrow. Hobby time. Whoop whoop. Nice, mate. Malcolm Brown says Deadzone has better mechanics and I prefer it. However, I do like the law of kill team and being able to field representatives from so many armies and factions. Yeah, I think we're kind of almost in a bit of agreement there, mate. I like the idea of. I mean, to be fair, the Deadzone law is actually is not too bad at all. To be fair, but yeah, 40k's got a lot of history in there, hasn't it? Scott says, mind you, if I come over, I want a t-shirt. The only t-shirts I've got, mate, are my own. I don't have any stock of them at home. Where we're up to there. Ravnos says, can you do a chat about small space gaming? Yeah, why not? We'll do one in the next few weeks, I think. I'll put it down as a small space gaming. I think, to be honest, it's not a bad chat, to be fair, because a lot of games are really starting to kind of pick up on this smaller play area thing. So yes, Ravnos, I'll put it down as one of the future topics. David Moffat says, I enjoyed painting those Maze and Labs fellows more than I thought I would. It didn't seem that impressive when I first took them out the box. Yeah, I enjoyed painting my Veerman as well, to be fair. I did get to a point about halfway through them where I was thinking, oh God, I'm not really enjoying it. But I was in that midpoint where they look garbage, where you haven't got to the point of kind of like putting a wash into them or kind of highlighting any bits or anything like that. It was just like flat base colours and it was just like, oh God. But yeah, you power through those things. Master Sergeant Cat said, I've seen lots of tabletop simulator videos come out since COVID. What's your opinion on digital versus in-person wargaming? My opinion is it's a great option when you don't have the choice. I'd much rather play face-to-face than digital, but it's a good option when you don't have the choice. The problem is with those tabletop simulator stuff is they're kind of clunky, and you need to play them a lot to kind of get to know how you use them to their best. Once you've played them quite a bit, they're all right, but they kind of, like a normal game can, like if you play a game of, let's just say Deadzone, for example. If a game of Deadzone takes you an hour, it'll take you about 3 hours to play it on the digital versions until you kind of know what you're doing, I think. But yeah, I can see people are trying to basically find a way to play a game. If it's that or nothing, I'll take that all day, basically. Ravnos to say, I travel a lot for work and have limited space in luggage. Yeah, let me think on that one, mate. We'll definitely do something about it in the next few weeks. Jacob says, big games, small spaces. Yeah. Daniel says, Andy, any plans on more woodworking gaming tables? I loved the ones in the past. To be honest, mate, there's a few people ask me about that, and I've essentially made stuff when I've needed it. So it's not like I'm kind of like some kind of woodworking expert or anything like that. I've made stuff as and when I've needed it. So I've got no plans at the minute because it's nothing I really need. However, if the idea comes up, or if something comes up as a suggestion that I think, oh yeah, that'll be good, I'm more than kind of open to doing that stuff. But I'm certainly not I'm not a woodworking expert or anything like. David says, I'm looking forward to painting up the rest of Star Saga, though I'm not sold on the Plague. The Plague are nice, but they're I see them, like a lot of them painted the same way, basically. Born to Lose Live to Win says, do you play any Bolt Action, bud? I've not played it yet, mate, but I do have a painted US Marines and a painted German starter sets. So who knows, mate? I might give it a try soon. My main kind of gaming buddy, if you like, my main opponent, has also been painting up a British force as well during lockdown. So we might have a game at some point in the future. Busey saying, have a game in your garden, guys, if you can. Safer than going to Primark or Niketown. Just be careful. Exactly, mate. Yeah. Kelly saying, COVID-19 work from home has taught me early retirement looks so good. Do you know what? Now I'm doing this as a job. Honestly, I'm really enjoying it. I'm loving doing this. It's harder work, I think, than I probably thought it was. And I think it's maybe harder work because I'm putting more hours in than I ever did in a day job, because it's really kind of it's a funny line knowing when have I stopped working and I'm doing my hobby. Like, for example, like I purposefully yesterday sat and hobbied in the afternoon. I sat here, I watched the Tabletop Minions live stream. I sat and painted some miniatures for me. I didn't record anything. It was kind of like, it was a bit of time off in the afternoon, and I sat and painted. But if I find that the line is kind of, the line's not it's blurred, if you like. But I'm enjoying it. It almost feels like I'm not working sometimes. It just feels like I'm doing loads of hobby. Do you know what I mean? So it's not a bad thing. Dustin saying, problem with Deadzone laws, it's too close to reality, being owned by corporations, space fascists and xenophobia, though. Whoops, all political. You're not wrong, mate, to be fair. You're not wrong. And I think in the current climate, yeah, we do have to look at those kind of stuff, don't we? With a different kind of hat on. David Mackay, sorry, he's saying, I'm good at flipping a table and tabletop simulator. Far too fiddly. That's kind of where I am. Scott saying, God, that reminds me, I have 2 lots of Dreadball Extreme, Deadball and Star Saga to paint. And I've finished your mini swap. I haven't even started yours yet, mate. Steve saying, I've played multiple games of Kings of War over FaceTime and Zoom. Great fun. Wow. Daniel says, a 90-inch 40k table, perhaps. To be honest, well, no. I ain't building one that big. Daniel saying, glad you're getting some Zen time in. Yeah, it was nice. I think yesterday is really the first time. I think I'm going to have a day off tomorrow, actually. I think I'm intentionally going to not do anything channel-wise. Kind of maybe try and get out and go for a walk and get some fresh air and actually have a day off. Because I've not actually had a day off since I started doing this. So it's been 3 months now. I've basically been doing kind of work every day, so I think I'm going to have a day off tomorrow, a proper day off, and then I'll be back on Wednesday doing the live stream and everything else kind of stuff. But yeah, I think I kind of need a breather. I think. Justicard Justin says, first time joining the live stream. How do you know that your painting is good enough that you stop painting that miniature? First of all, thank you very much for coming into the live stream. Second of all, it's a really hard one. I think there's a point where you kind of look at it and you think you're pushing paint around. You're not really painting anymore. You're almost just pushing paint around, you're almost going past the point when you should have stopped. So it's a hard one to know when you're kind of, especially if you're just getting started or if you always go too far. What I would suggest is if you think you might be getting to that point, stop and look at it with fresh eyes the next day. Because I think it's a really, really good question. When is enough enough? Standard Tabletop says, I really like Tabletop Simulator and have it down to fine art, but many games are not suited. I think that's the problem, mate. Andy 2D6 is in. Hello, Andy. How you doing, mate? Not seen you in a long time. He says, Kill Team rules are garbage. Deadzone is fantastic. Did you just sum up the video, mate, in about 5 seconds there? Christian saying, it's always the issue. Board game route is probably a good start. Usually easier to learn. I used to play a lot of Star Wars Destiny on Tabletop Simulator, but there's a lot less moving parts. And I think as soon as you try and start moving around miniatures on a tabletop on Tabletop Simulator, there's just too many moving parts, I think. VG saying the key to Tabletop Simulator is to learn the keyboard shortcuts. Yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's not the easiest to kind of learn. You end up watching loads of videos to see how the thing plays. Spanky Taz says the trouble with being self-employed is that your boss quickly turns into a slave driving Git. Yeah, and he won't give you a pay rise, and there's no sense of any promotion either. He does, however, look after me. David Mackay says, stick your feet up, have a curry and some beer. I don't know about having a curry and some beer, mate. I need to try and lose a bit of weight, actually. I did a bit of boxing this morning. I woke up early this morning and went in the garage. I hung my punch bag up a little while ago. So I've been doing a bit of boxing training in the gym, in the garage this morning, just to try and I need to start moving and getting fit again. I was getting into a routine of going to the gym before the lockdown, and then obviously I've stopped now. So Fiji says you really need ASTWQE for rotate. Neil, that you're good. Marco says your employers say no to your time off request. Thanks, boss. Daniel says take a few days off, gives me time to catch up with past paintings live streams. I don't really want to take time off. Like, it's not like I'm kind of burnt out or anything like that. I think it's just I need to find what that routine is. Like, and at the minute I'm loving it, so I don't want to I don't want to blur the lines, and it's hard with there's nowhere to go. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I'm going to have a day off and I'm going to go somewhere. There's nowhere to go. So if I don't do work, I'm kind of just sitting around, and then I feel like I'm wasting my time. So it's a way. I think it's just a sign of the situations we're in at the minute as well now. Ravnos says, I think I'll have a look at just being stuck in a hotel. Think we'll have a look. I just find being stuck in a hotel is only so much you can do. I think, to be honest, mate, I would definitely say if it's that or nothing, I would agree. It's a great thing. So yeah, definitely do it. Everyone chatting about the shortcuts. Universal Battle, and Vincent saying as well, I've heard good things about Universal Battle as well, mate, to be fair. VG says, Andy, don't forget to set aside that Blitzball time, sir. I will do, mate. I must do. I promised that I would do it, and I will get round to it. Bottle Lose Live to Win says, try to set up an online gaming shop and eBay, mainly Warlord games item, but the profit was very minimal as I didn't get the discount for not having a bricks and mortar shop. I looked at opening a shop a number of years ago now, and what I found was, even with that discount, you have to discount down to 20% anyway, just to kind of compete with everybody else. Otherwise, why would anybody come to you? And this was years before I ever started YouTube stuff, so it's not even like I had any kind of I hasten to say, but like a ready-made kind of customer base, if you like, that would support me. And in order to make it work, you had to shift a hell of a lot of volume of stuff. It just didn't make any sense at all. So unless you're kind of really passionate about it and you've got money to burn, yeah, it's not something I would even look at these days now. Scott saying he's going to start running again. I've got a really weak back, mate. I had a motorbike accident a number of years ago, and I've got a really weak spot in my back, and it takes me a while to kind of to build up my core strength again. Otherwise, if I start running, I get a really sore back. So I tend to do like a bit more cycling and a bit more kind of, like I say, boxing and things like that. I've got to be really careful what I do. Yeah, I had a bit of a bad motorbike accident years and years ago. Barry says, when you stop painting a mini, it's tough thing to learn. I had a hard time learning that not every mini is going to a museum. Yeah, exactly. David Mackay says, been a good night, take it easy. David Moffat says he's got a plan in mind when he paints a mini. Once I reach his goal, usually stops. Good shout, gents. Master Sergeant Cass says, I stopped painting when the wife says it looks good. And David says, that probably is from commission painting for me. Set the plan, maintain the schedule. Yeah, I bet commission painting, you do need to know when to stop. Otherwise, you're giving away your time, really. Peter says, peaceful night to all. Keep gaming safe. And Jack says, good chat tonight. Have a good week, everyone. Yes, thanks very much, folks. I think that's a good point to kind of wrap things up. Thank you very much, every single one of you that have been in tonight. Thank you for the super chat tonight as well. Thank you to the Patreons who keep things going. Those that haven't seen in the Patreon, anybody that $5 and above pledge level, there's a new podcast that is up for you. There'll be another one coming in the next couple of weeks. Scott says, discussing your day off tomorrow on Discord. If you're suggesting a game, mate, I'm having a day off from tabletop stuff completely, but I'll see you in the Discord chat, mate. But thank you very much, folks. I will be back on Wednesday for another hobby hangout on Wednesday night, and I'll see you all soon. Take care. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month, and there is lots of different tiers and bonuses which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.